Oh man, go your own way. Go your own way. Earlier this morning, we talked about Jimmy and Sue and Chad, the typical relationship you're going to see in this modern world of modernity and feminism and all those things that we see today. Jimmy is the biological father. Chad is the new guy living with Sue. Sue's played Jimmy, and Jimmy storms into the Health and Human Services office, and he wants to proclaim his fatherhood because Jimmy's got something called desire. Desire is a horrible thing. Romanticization is a horrible thing for men to have. It's the root of all evil for men. It's that dark spots in us, and it's that dark thinking, and Jimmy wants to sign up for his own slavery, which is a horrible thing. But we get to the point in the story where Chad is on the couch. The kids are there. Sue is happy. Jimmy's trying to force his way back into the relationship with Sue because he wants Sue. He cares little about the children. He wants to force it into him. In that, Health and Human Services goes, okay, you want to be father, $1,300 a month, and you can see him once on a weekend supervised. And then they enforce that on him, and he ends up in jail. And he's in this position. He's in a position of desire. And when we look for the evil of desire and them things, we have to look at a couple places, and a place that I don't like to look at a lot. I have to look at the field of dharma. This is the fourth example of romanticization, that fantasy fiction place Adler was talking about, that white picket fence and house that mgtows talk about, the finalized fictionalism, the existential flight from reality that we talk about. There's another place, and it's on the field of dharma. A good example of the field of dharma is the movie from the baseball movie when he hears voices. And he's a farmer, and he hears voices, and he's interpreting these voices as the command to build a baseball field, a diamond in the middle of his field, and plow under his grains and plow under his ideas. That's a nice fantasy fiction thought. He's on the field of dharma in that, and he's got this fantasy fiction going where he's going to plow under his field and do it. And in the movie, it works out, and everybody comes to watch baseball, and he charges tickets. But in real life, it's nice, but it's not real. You lose your farm, you lose everything, and people don't come to watch baseball in minor leagues in a field in the middle of Iowa. That's fantasy fiction. It's made up fantasy fiction, and we know, most of us know it. Some of us believe it still. Some of people even tried that and failed and lost their farms because of this awful thought. We're talking about on the field of dharma. When you're on that field of dharma, you're lost with romanticization. And there's some strange story, and I'll get to it, about being a warrior. Being in mgtow, we're put in this strange place. We're on this field, and it's the field of the Bhagavad Gita with Arjuna, and Krishna is the chariot driver, and there's a battle going on, and you got to put yourself in the middle of this battle. So Arjuna runs out into the middle of the battle and stops, and he looks on one side of the battle, and on one side of the battle is the townsfolk, his family, his friends, all these people but Arjuna is a warrior class. He's supposed to be on this other side of this battle where he's going to fight him, but he's complexed with these two problems. That's where it is with mgtow. We come onto the field, and we look over, and we got family and friends on this side, and we got community, and we got your family, your children, everybody's over there, and then we got the warrior class, how to be a warrior in mgtow, and it's often misinterpreted in this in the Gita, how this thing goes. And Krishna gives a little insight on desire. He's having desire, and all his life, Arjuna, Krishna loved Arjuna, and he talks. Krishna talks about from the world of Adharma. It's a dharma, and he talks about the writings and falsehood. The falsehoods people tell us, the caustic talk, the sakuna, the the uh, the calmony. It's a British word, calmony. It's about it's what has recently been done to me. Calmony is misinterpreting things intentfully to harm another's reputation, thinking about but it talks about all these things from the warrior's perspective, and there's a battle going on with mgtows, and it's a battle with the family and friends and all that, in the community that we would consider blue pill, and in the community of warrior class, where we see that men are being treated unfairly. And how do we respond to that? Well, Krishna tells them, take out your sword and fight. And this taking out your sword and fight is it's quite an act when you're in that field. And most people don't ever get on that field where you're the mgtow, and you're between these two armies, and you're trying to, you've walked away from everything, and you're out in the middle of the field, and you have to explain to yourself, what you're living for, and what your passions are, and what these actions that you're going to move into. mgtow is often off the field of dharma, which they would call it. We're off the field of emotions. We're off the field of romanticized thinking. We're thinking from a purely scientific and rational thing. And you put these arguments away. You walk first, and you walk away. You regroup. You sharpen your sword. You make it solid for defense. You make yourself solid. You ponder what is right and wrong, and then you get ready for the fight, the battle that goes on. There's going to be a battle. People are going to come at you, and that's just the way it is. You're the singular object in the field, and there's two armies on both sides of you, and it's quite a difficult place to be when you're in Mega. You ponder the right and the wrong. You do your self introspection and that thing, and a lot of the things that Arjuna was battling against was he looks over, and everything he loved was on one side, and everything he loved was on the other side. The split in the man's mind, the duality, the cognitive dissonance in this thing. And it's easy to go back, and he puts his sword away. Then Krishna convinces him to go on fighting, because it would be a good thing for him to do that. And there's reasons why he went on fighting. You can't be effective a man in life if you're taking on these duties, which are subservient duties. You just become a part of one side or the other, and that's what you pick a side, and that's what they're going to tell us in mgtow. They're going to pick a side, but they're going to use these techniques, which Krishna talks about. It's mithna, it's falsehood, and it's caustic talk, shaming language is what we talk about in men, calling men deadbeat dads, shaming them, and doing those things. I'm far removed from all those things in my life, but still, men will bring it up, and they'll do that, and it's absurd talk. It's asabaduda. It's absurdity in their talk, and like I said, as a calmony, which is a British word, is taken from the English. It means misrepresentations intend to harm another person's reputation. That all comes from desire. Krishna, when he was speaking, he speaks about the objects which we think about as men. What are those objects? Those objects are things that we desire. He says attachment to them formed in a man, from attachment longing, and from longing anger, and anger grows. The anger comes to delusion. The delusion is loss of memory, and the loss of memory comes to ruin, and it ruins the understanding. From ruined understanding, he perishes. And then he goes on to say, neither agitated by grief nor hankering with pleasure have we lived free of lust, fear, and anger. We no longer have no desires as mgtow. So we can get into this middle of the field where we can see everything and survey everything around us. And one of the things that that we have is desire. Now we go back to Jimmy, and in the modern world, Jimmy has desire to be a father. He wants to be a father, but he doesn't realize that that's going to have cost and traditional cost. I've explained this many times that the traditional cost is you're living a traditional relationship, and she's living a traditional relationship where she's your slave and you're her slave. But in that, she makes you the slave. You're going to be going off to work. You're going to be paying. But after that ends, and Chad in the modern relation comes in, she runs off with him. You're still going to end up paying because of we're unwilling to release. And this is where man in the house. There's arguments going on within, and this is where the MRA should be taking the argument too. There's this thing called the man in the house. Man in the house is if there's another man in the house, he should be. See, there's two fathers here, really. Chad is a father, and he's taking care of the kids. He don't have to go to work if he doesn't want to. He's taking care of the kids most of the day. He's picking them up. He's picking up your kids from basketball practice. He's dropping them off at school. He's the father that's tucking them in at night now. Now, in that situation, we have the modern family, which Chad is the father. But the biological father is wanting, he's desiring to be in that position. So he's signed up, and all they gave him was a bill. They gave him a bill, and he's calling himself. So we can see the duality and the complexity of father in that. And there's something called the man in the house. Who is the man in the house? And should the man in the house be living on Jimmy? Should the man in the house be living on Jimmy? Because that's where we start talking about slavery. That's what makes it slavery. Look into it, man in the house, and it's a good argument. But women use these man in the house rules where they're very polyandrous. They want to move from one to the next to the next and the next. Biologically, it's called sexual crypsis, and it's their choice, and they will do that. In today's world, divorces are a dime a dozen. You can get them in 30 days. You will have no say in the matter, and that will be it. Fatherhood is signed off like that, and there was nothing that. Now you have the complexity of these two fathers. You have two fathers, and the kids have the father taking care of them, and then they'll be calling him daddy, and all they know is Jimmy's out there, the biological father, and there's no special connection like romanticized people think. He thought he had a special connection with Sue, and there was some line that couldn't be clipped or broken, and that love would be for eternal. And all Jimmy had was desire, and he wanted that split V, and then he got what he wanted. You give a fool what they want, they say. He ran down trying to claim his fatherhood because he felt it was attached to his masculinity. It wasn't really attached to his masculinity as Krishna thinks. Being free from those things when you're placed in that situation. What do you do when you're placed in that situation where you're in the middle? You have to pick between family, and you have to pick between honor. You have to pick between your masculinity. There's a thing called flow, and that's where Krishna was talking about when we go into the flow and then we stop being those things, and we just react without. We do these things without a sense of any how the outcomes are going to be. It's like a basketball player when he gets into the groove and he makes 6 shots and he's just going with the flow, and he's just popping them in, and that's where we have to get as mgtows, and we have to take on a different observation of the world which we live in, and what we're signing up for, and these things that are horrible for us if we keep believing that we're on that field of dharma where everything's going to be beautiful and we're going to be able to pray our way out of everything, and what you're praying for is really desire. That's what Krishna was saying, and that he's like, oh, you're just playing for the love and desire, and you're going to be the man, and you're going to have that arm candy, and that's what you dream of. Now, mgtow is off the field of dharma. We can see that, but being off the field of dharma, we can also see all these horrible things in life. That's the red pill, and the red pill comes with seeing, like I said, that adharma. The words are the speech, that mitha, the falsehoods, the parasa, the caustic talk, the sukana, the kalmani, the asabada, the absurd talk. And Krishna talks about these things, and he talks about their gods are quite sarcastic gods, and it takes a lot a lot of listening and a lot of attention to the details when you're talking about these things. But they always work out to what was Arjuna. Krishna loved Arjuna, and he was telling, what were you thinking here? You're thinking with your heart. You're thinking with desire. You're thinking with romanticism. All those things that that Krishna and mgtow would say, put off the field. You have to stop thinking with your heart. You have to stop thinking, because you're in a real situation here, and you really should expose your sword. You have to do things very effectively when you're a mgtow, or you will end up in a horrible situation. A horrible situation where you're in a one room, and you're living horribly in life, and and most of these men come in here, and they have that gun to their head, and it's like that's where they live for the rest of their lives. And with that desire, they'll carry these sayings, these little mythos with them. They're falsehoods. They're pranic. They're toxic. They're in comedy. They insult other men to try to make themselves feel better about their life, because their lives aren't very good. I've been through all this in the past. I've defeated all those demons in my journey through life, and I did it in a very surprising, unexpected way. That I can't even talk to people in mgtow about, and I don't even. One of these days, I may share my story when I get close to death and stuff about how I approached this thing, and it worked out very well for me once I separated myself from all those unrational things, and I started thinking totally rational as a mgtow, and as the monk, and hence we got the name, maybe in one of the first monks around. And they used to say that you're hyper, Joe, you're hyper, good, or goody two shoes, or whatever they were saying. Hence they're calling the monk and everything. But we learn a lot from these things. We learn about being the warrior. We learn about being out on that field of Gita, and he's having to do that battle. And a lot of us men in real life, we've had to do these real battles on fields that bullets were shooting by us, and we get this advice from men that we come back here a lot. Perfect. We come back here a lot, and we start getting advice from people that really don't know. And what they do is every time they're forthcoming with how they think things are real, and PTSD and everything, and how we think. They start talking about it, but they're not giving it from any practical advice. They're reading it from a book. They can't really feel how it was. They have no idea those things that we go through. And what they really do is, I've seen these twice, once with Laz and once with Spetsnaz in the last few weeks, of them giving advice to men that they think have PTSD. But what they really do is they just force us into this area now when we're listening to these videos, and they're reminding us about those things. And I could be having a perfectly good day until somebody reminds me, and then all of a sudden I start thinking about those horrible things on the battlefield, on the battles. And there's battles that take place in your mind after this, and this thing doesn't end right there. This thing goes on a lifetime, and the stress rises, and we're doing more battles as men. And I found over the years from experience that I put all that stuff away, and I got to get into the flow in life, and I got to get into this place where I don't no longer believe in fantasy fiction things. And sorry, ladies, and sorry, simps, and sorry, trad cons, I don't believe in fatherhood. I don't believe, I think it's a made up thing. I'll get a response back from a lot of people, but I have to put my life there because I was in that battle. I'm in that battle today. I'm experienced all these things. I can look back like Krishna now, or I can look back like from that position where I'm now that guy that I'm Arjuna. I'm in the center. Uh, I have to make better decisions, and I have to quit being so. I can't afford to think in fantasy fiction terms anymore, in traditional terms. There's no going back to the 50s. We have to argue these points from 2020, because we are in 2020. And when I give the example of Jimmy and Sue and Chad, that's the 2020 representation. Now, when these idiots come and they argue with me, recent one, he's arguing from a position of the past, from on the field of Dharma, which is fantasizing things, and he's got a desire, and his hope and his desire is to be father. And he's going to lash out like those warriors on this side or those warriors on this side, the purple pillars and the blue pillars and the men of honor over here that do the battle. And all those men are going to lash out at you, and you're going to be Arjuna in the middle, and you're going to know how that feels. But we get some practical advice about lose desire, lose the romanticization, lose all that garbage, and lose and come back to a place of reality. And once you're in a place of reality, you'll start seeing that a lot of this slavery, stuff, which is a horrible thing. Yeah, a lot of this stuff in life is just fantasy fiction we make up in our minds to give us the impression that life is better than what it is. You can make yourself a pretty good life just being in reality. It's not always going to be perfect, because you're going to see things. You're going to see the people, your family, your friends over there on that side, and they want things from you. And they want you to be a certain way, and they want you to be that stand-up guy for them, and they want your sword, and they want you to battle for them. But in that battle, there's another side over here that wants, it's the government, it's all that, and you're going to be in that middle. You're going to have to make those decisions, and you're the one that they're going to crush. Arjuna at first puts his sword away, and he says, I don't know what to do. And Krishna says, bring your sword out and fight. What are we fighting here? We're fighting traditionalism. We're fighting against traditionalism. That's what Arjuna was fighting for too. And he's seen traditionalism on both sides of us, because us mgtows, we're in the middle. We're in the middle. We're about to, if you think about it, we are about the most godly creatures on this planet, and Krishna sits with me in this chair. If you're thinking about it, just being a mgtow, a mgtow monk is a pretty honorable thing. We put all those garbage away, and they yell at us about that. Oh, how can you do that? How can you? They say it's natural to want to do them things with women, and you say, no, that is your desire, and it's overwhelming you. And that's where the dark side comes in. Jung talks about the dark side. All those desires will lead you to evil, and it will lead you into ruin. And those are the traps that we talk about. Don't fall for those traps. Don't fall for the tradcons coming around shaming you, calling you names. I'm so far removed from that stuff, I kind of laugh when I hear it, because when they call you those names, they tell on you. They tell on themselves. They tell that they're still in that blue pill world over there, and they so desire it, and they want it, and they'll do anything. They'll throw you under the bus to get there. And they will throw you under the bus, because I've had this happen with my former group. He started trouble with CS. He started trouble over here. He started trouble over there. He started trouble, and then he threw me under the bus in the end. That guy's a walking nightmare. He's a one-trick pony, and he's a walking nightmare for mgtow. And and he will take you back to a very, very bad place in your mind, and that's where this battle is going to have to take place, because until we find men with a little bit of courage, until we find men like Arjuna and myself that were willing to go on the battlefield and win, and I did win. uh, um, these guys that give up and then they start thinking, they they'll fall back into the fray. They'll fall back into that ocean that I talk about, to that place where they're drowned and they're encompassed by their fears and their anger, and everything takes over, and then they become those simps and those white knights and those those horrible men that we talk about all the time. And yes, they want to go back to the traditional. They want to force Sue. Jimmy wants to force Sue into. He would take her if he could, and he'd hold her captive and the kid in a room so he can have that. He would. And we don't want to be those men. We play neither game either way. There's a lot of men around mgtow that play those games. They have that desire and they still do it. And you want to find the road to real true evil and the dark side of your heart, go down that road of desire, and you will become a very, very dark person. And we see that a lot in this world. So I just wanted to talk about that. And I just want to say hello to mgtows. We're going to be doing this subject and we're going to be hitting it. And from a lot of different angles about desire. Desire is a very creepy thing. It's a dark thing. It leads to real anger. It leads to real resentment. And mgtows, we put away our desire. If everybody says mgtow's angry, the first thing is said, man, I put away my desire a long time ago. But the simps will usually start talking about what they desire. That's where you're going to win the argument. They're going to desire a female's company. They're going to desire that family. They're going to desire this. These are things you can have or you can't have, or whatever comparatively to your situation in life. I don't really care about them. But once you start holding them things as an object, and that's what Krishna was talking about. He was the male at that point. He started talking about holding those things as an object close to you, where you become something really horrible. He says, thinking about these objects, attachment from these objects formed in a man, from attachment, longing, and from longing, anger grows. From anger comes delusion. From the delusion, loss of memory. From loss of memory comes the ruin of understanding. And from the ruin of understanding will become his perishing. And that's how that thing goes. And I can see this in so many men. So many men will end their lives, and so many men will end their lives because of that one thing. They're holding that object, that woman, up on that pedestal, like Laz is still doing. He's got that object, that family object. That's fatherhood too. It could be any of these desires related to the unthinking world of the townsmen, the unthinking world of over here, that romanticization of the world that we do. It all becomes very terrible. And that's true evil. Once Lazarus said that, he says all women are evil, and he took a lot of heat from that. He was wrong for doing that because he misconstrues evil with and he projects what is his emotions. And most of the time when he's talking, he's just projecting what's in his head, and that's his desire for his special, his desire for that fatherhood, his desire for that, and then it leads down that path. We release ourselves in this mgtow from those desires, from those false beliefs, from those misinterpretations of the way the world really works. And like I say, when that judge goes, you are no longer a father to you, you understand that being on that battlefield in the middle, and what you have to do, you can simp and you can cower and you can take it, or you can stand up like a mgtow and you can fight. I prefer to stand up like a mgtow, and I won. I'll tell you, you ask anybody, I beat that game down. I beat that game down big time. And I'll tell you what, he called me a deadbeat dad. I'll tell you what, my kids got $200 extra over over every month what the judge said I had to pay. But I won't tell you how I did it, because I had to beat them down too. I had to make them pay. So if I really told my real story, you would say I'm a horrible guy. I'm a horrible guy, and I had to do horrible things. But I won, and I did it the mgtow way. I did it myself, and I didn't lose 1 ounce of dignity while I was doing it. I didn't, like so many men do. They lose their dignity while they're doing it. They cower. They start calling other men things. They become that dishonorable thing that puts his sword back in his sheath, and he can't do it. Like Krishna says, they talk in absurdity. They talk in ad dharma, falsehood, caustic talk, calumny, and absurd talk. And that's all I see from them people now. As a mgtow, you better get used to seeing that, because all you're going to see after you turn mgtow is absurdity. But you're going to be in a spot where you're the only one on that field, and you're going to have your sword out. Be ready and have your sword out, because you're going to be attacked from the darndest places. People that call you friends, people that want to throw you under the bus, people that start trouble, people that talk caustically. I put away all the last couple of years. I tried to put away all of that casual cruelty that we do to each other around here. But sometimes it's hard when you have these men that their very essence, their very soul is about casual cruelty. And that's where I see true evil in this world, where their desires become true evil, and they are casually cruel to almost everybody they meet. So that's all I want to talk about, mgtows, and you have a great day. And hey, do the mgtow thing and do it best to your ability. And when you're on that field of Gita, that your battlefield, get in the middle and observe it. Step back, sharpen your sword, get a plan, because you're going to need to. And you're going to need to have some mighty thick skin being a mgtow. But most of you probably have it. And that's all I got to say today. I'm going to keep up, and I'm going to do some, I'm going to further what evil is and what desire, and how desire is attached to evil, and how that's how we used to be, just big packets of boner desire. And until we look down into our souls, until we become the mgtow monks, we're going to be along with all those traditional lights and all those blue pill people and all those pansies and all those idiots over here, and all. You're going to see it all. Don't be one of them. You remove yourself, you put yourself on the mgtow bench, and you point and you giggle as you see it, because it becomes also funny as you see it. With that, thanks a lot for being mgtow, and you guys all take care.